This is May 22nd, 2024, and I am sitting with Mrs. Marilyn Stoner Swartz, whose family owned the Willow Mill Amusement Park in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. So, Marilyn, when did your family take ownership of the park?
Okay, my father bought the park in 1947 from his friends too, Bill Miller and Dale Etley. They had the park maybe 3 years, and then my father bought it from them at 47, and he owned it until almost 1960.
Okay.
And we lived in the cottage on the top of the hill from April in the spring, until October in the fall. And then our home was in Camp Hill. But that was our beginning in my childhood. It's where I grew up.
What ages were you when you lived
I
there?
was 10. I was 10. And my sister is a couple years older than I am. And we worked. We had our little chores to do and relieving people for their dinner hour, or working in a stand, like the court gun stand. And I actually have a court gun someone gave me. And relieving, like I said, most of it because, of course, I was too young to do much else. But I did work in the refreshment stand and lunch stand, things like that. So
And and you met your husband there.
I did. I did. He was 14 and he worked there again in some of the games because he was too young to operate any of the rides, and he would the games and the bingo stand. And I again worked in the bingo stand also on a Sunday, and that was like the beginning. And from there on, we ended up getting married, having 4 children, and it was a fun time.
Mhm.
It was good. It was lots of lots of employees from other towns. I remember from New Cumberland, Lemoyne, Enola, um, where else? Mechanicsburg. A lot of that was a place that I think teenage boys could come and get a job, clean up the park after a Sunday or a busy day, and it was their employment. It was so I met a lot of other other children that are our age, and we had a dance floor that was there at the park, and we had a Wurlitzer jukebox, which is, of course, in the book, but it was fun that we would do dance after work, you know.
What were some of the rides that you can remember being there at the time?
Well, of course, first of all, we had a train that went around, circled around. We had roller coaster, which was a mild roller coaster in comparison to what you see nowadays, but people were afraid to get on. And when they came down the hill, a lot of them would raise their arms, like no hands. It was fun. And we had an airplane ride, and then airplanes flew out like over the creek, the Connequen Creek. And one man told me one time that he used to get stones and throw them at objects in the creek when they're going around, like making a game. And the whip, which, kind of shook you around. The whip um, and the motorboats. Can't forget the motorboats. They were Chris Craft motorboats. And Chris Craft are made of mahogany. Not sure you're aware. They're terrific boats. We had 2 of them. And we had to keep there was a dam. We had to keep the dam up so the water level would be high enough to run the boats. And that was part of their chores, throwing rocks up on the dam to keep the water high. And people could swim. Um, it was like 8 feet in the middle. But you figure when those boats, their motor, when they would go down in the clear out the bottom of the creek. So, but it was fun to ride. And we used to at one point we went like a mile up the creek and back, but later we had to change that to 2 trips around shorter instead of that far. But they were very popular and still are. They're very expensive boats.
Yes.
So,
Did you have
kiddie rides.
and bumper cars?
No, that was later.
Okay,
That was later. Uh-huh.
I remember the bumper cars.
Uh-huh.
Did you have, I see there with your diagram that
Uh-huh.
you have, you had a stage. Did you have a lot of music?
We certainly did. Every Sunday we had some sort of entertainment. Um, there were all kinds of dog shows, talent shows. We had a Junior Miss Central Pennsylvania contest one time, and we had Mabel Seeger. I remember her. Sons of the Plains was her band, and it was always there was always something, and you can see by the crowds in the
Mhm.
pictures how it drew the crowds,
Mhm.
and then on special occasions we had these fantastic deals like Dynamite Dan. Dynamite Dan is in the book, and he would get in a box with a stick of dynamite, blow it up. He'd come tumbling out. I don't know how he did it. I wouldn't want to do it the first time, would you? No. So, and then to do it again and again, he has to be deaf. But that was a big attraction because that was something to see. And another one was Dixie Blandy, who would sit on a pole, ride a bicycle, and the contest was to guess how many miles he pedaled in a weekend, like Friday till Monday or Sunday.
Oh.
Sunday was the end of the contest, and that was Dixie Blandy, and of course fireworks, special, 4th of July and Labor Day and all those things, and beautiful. Um, they called it Niagara Falls, where the fireworks were
Mhm.
spread out. It's beautiful. And a flag, all those things. And then we had a hot air balloon ascensions, which was full. A lot of fun, I mean, amazing to see these balloons fill up and people get in that little cart, and float off. And, we didn't have phones, so you didn't know where they landed. And the guys would get in the Jeep and go wherever the direction was that they landed. Can you imagine? And then we had that a couple times. That was fun to watch, but I certainly wouldn't want to do that. No. So we had can't think of any other one that really stand out.
So you have pony rides, I see.
Yes, we did.
So that's where those your ponies?
No, they were people from New Bloomfield. Their last name was Yo. They had maybe 4 ponies, and I had ponies and horses at the time. And during the week, they would keep the ponies where we kept at a farm, which is right down the road, and they would keep them there, and then use them on Sunday or whatever day they were there for picnics or whatever. But there is a man, a boy that was leading the pony in the picture, and lives in New Kingston now. So he was, last name's Crumlick, and the whole Crumlick family worked at the park. The father had the cotton candy booth, the mother worked in the lunch stand, and the other kids were wherever, working. So it was fun with the ponies.
That's some of my best memories of the cotton candy personally.
Is that right?
And the merry-go-round, was that there?
Yep.
It's historic, is that correct?
Yes. The merry-go-round was because, again, it was a Wurlitzer, and when the park was ended and it was sold to Bushkill Falls.
Okay.
And my son wanted to get a picture for the book. I have colored pictures. He didn't want colored, he wanted black and white like the rest of the book. So he went up to Bushkill, and they said they had a flood and they apparently sold out, and they sold the merry-go-round. But she had a picture from a postcard. That's what he used. But it was up there for several years. And when the park ended, then I understand that the train went to Florida, someplace in Florida, and there was
Did
gentle
the roller coaster went to England?
a man from England came over to buy it, and he stored it in a warehouse. I don't know any more from that. I don't know where, if he ever got it, because he said it was a wooden
Mhm.
and the true old-time
Right.
wooden roller coaster.
Right.
So,
So what made your parents want to purchase an amusement park?
I just think it was a connection with his friend, Mr. Miller, and at the time, he had a business in Mount Holly Springs. He had the milk and ice.
Mhm.
He had a mill race and an ice house, and people come buy 100-pound keg of ice. So anyway, that was his first venture, and then the park was the second venture. And another interesting thing, which I just found out the other day, was telling my sister, uh, okay, I won't get into that story, but I was telling my sister, and she said, our father had to pay to lease the ground. It was owned by Raymond DeWalt. DeWalt Tool.
Mhm.
Okay, so he owned the mill, which I'm sure you're
Yes.
familiar with.
Yeah.
He owned the mill and the ground at the park.
Okay.
So my father, she said, had to pay $100,000 a year to lease the ground. I think, and you're talking about the 50s. That's a lot of money. And when you think tickets are 10 cents a
Mhm.
piece, that's a lot of tickets to sell, right?
Right.
To cover that, I just couldn't believe that. I didn't know that before.
Was the mill part of the park or was that
No, it was separate.
it was
It
separate?
was
Okay.
separate, yeah. Mr. DeWalt's family lived in the house right
Mhm.
across from the mill. So actually, on Monday, I went to see the granddaughter, Dolly
Okay.
Berkheimer.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Dolly?
Yes.
I found her, and she was with her granddaughter, and she gave her a book, and she was thrilled with the book. And she was telling me that they are planning a DeWalt celebration, a
Oh.
100-year DeWalt, some kind of
Oh
celebration.
my God.
And the tool
Mhm.
was sold to Black and Decker. I had heard that before, yeah.
Yes.
But I had the nicest visit with Dolly, and we had a good time.
I don't think many people know of the connection of Mr. DeWalt
Probably not.
and Cumberland County.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
big time,
Yes.
big time. I'll tell you. I remember him, and he taught a,
He
a tool
taught
class or whatever.
at Cumberland Valley
Well,
or
at the time it was Mechanicsburg because my husband had him as a teacher.
at his shop class, is
His
that right?
That's right, yeah. And I don't know how many years he did that, but yeah, he was pretty well known.
Mhm.
And you still see DeWalt
Yes.
tools.
Yes. It's an amazing connection. I didn't
Yeah.
realize though that he owned the grounds,
Yes, he did.
and you're right, that's a lot of money today, and
Yes,
it's hard to believe of the money in 1950
yes,
for that.
absolutely. I was just astounded. I thought I had no idea. I was too young,
Right.
I wasn't in on that.
Right.
But just the fact that that was my father. I remember him saying that was why he decided to sell the park
Mhm.
because he was tired of paying the lease.
Mhm.
He wanted to buy the ground, and DeWalt wouldn't sell it.
It's
So
interesting.
and he sold it to Fosnauts, who came from Hershey,
Okay.
Alan Fosnaught and his son, two sons, Donald and Alan Jr. And they now have the amusements on uh, Rehoboth Beach.
Oh,
The whole family is involved in Rehoboth Beach. I would love to get them a book too.
right.
I think they would like
And
it.
did they sell it to the Rohrballs then?
Yes.
Okay.
From there, I don't know.
And the Rohrballs, I believe, owned it until the end.
I thought there was another person. I heard that somewhere, but I don't remember the name. I'm not sure, but Rohrbaugh built a beautiful home
Hmm.
up there on top of the hill.
Right.
But Fosnuts are the ones that we really kind of got to know a little bit because we continued to live at the cottage for a little bit, then just gave it up
Hmm.
and moved out.
Right.
But it's my childhood.
And what was it like when your father decided to finally sell?
Uh-huh.
What was that like leaving the park? This was your childhood.
Yes. Yes, it was. And well, I was not happy. I
Give up
wasn't.
all that cotton candy.
Yeah, that's right. More cotton candy.
You see where my mind goes.
Well, there was so much. There was so much to be, all the activity and all
Mhm.
the, oh, we had a roller skating rink at one time, and unfortunately it burned. I think it was 52. I
Okay.
know it was the week of the Carlisle Fair, and which was good because there weren't people in the park,
Mhm.
because that rink was huge, and it just whoosh, and I heard that the fire trucks from Mechanicsburg were stopped by a train. They couldn't get through.
Of course.
So, so this fire, started spreading, and luckily, it it only got the one building, first building, which was our refreshment stand, and there was an apartment upstairs, and there was a shop
Mhm.
lower level.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that affected the rest of the park. Could have been replaced.
Right.
But that was tragedy. Really sad.
Did you come back and visit often to the park after you moved?
Not really too often. I did with my children, I was anxious to take them up. And like everyone says, you know, there's not something about a small park
Mhm.
that you can just go
Mhm.
and do, and you don't worry, and they just um, get to roll tickets and go in and have fun,
Right.
and ride the rides. And they didn't have to. I'm sorry, like Hershey, stand in line any length of time. It was on and off. Off you go.
Right.
On the roller coaster, many times they would come around and get back on again.
Guilty. Did you have the whenever I would go to the park, starting in the 70s to the 80s, we had the wristbands. Did you have
uh,
just the tickets or just the
Tickets,
tickets?
just the
Okay.
tickets. Yeah.
I remember having the different colors and the metal clasp, and that
Oh,
would always indicate the
okay.
different colors indicated what day. So I wasn't sure if that started with the Warballs or the Fosnauts or with your family.
I really don't know because we didn't have that. We had the tickets, which they
Mhm.
attached to their buttons or something.
Right.
And it was just to let them know that they're with a group
Mhm.
and they would maybe get a special rate. And then, they didn't have to be using tickets. It
Right.
just
Right.
family reunions or whatever.
Right.
And businesses like Carlisle Tie and Rubber would come, and Maslin,
Mhm.
even, some groups like that.
Did you get a lot of school kids there? Or like a lot of like school groups?
May was big on school day. Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of busloads of kids. And it was fun because some from Harrisburg,
Mhm.
my father made a special deal with those children and churches through the churches. And like I said, there was just a special price, which I know I
Right.
was privy to that, but the kids could just run and have fun.
Mhm.
And
It was a safe space.
yeah, yeah,
It was always a safe space for us. I just remember the families being in the pavilion while the kids were out running around and having a good time.
right.
It was a
Yeah,
very safe space.
yeah, absolutely. They would just sit around and chat, just enjoy it and
Mhm.
relax.
Mhm.
It was so much fun. I have to tell you a story about my husband on the, of course, not then, he was, just a young boy, but he was working on the track of the roller coaster. It was on the curve
Mhm.
of the track, and he repaired a board, and my father was, kind of observing, and you put creosote on, for the slide. It's creosote. So he had a 5-gallon bucket of creosote. So Marlon started to feel the track vibrate. The guy at the beginning started the thing that was coming around. They didn't know that he didn't know that Marlon was out there. So he didn't have much time. He threw the gallon of creosote down on the ground and he jumped down and he grabbed the boards and hung on the boards. So the car went over top.
Oh my God. Oh heavens.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, he didn't have much choice, not much time to think about it.
Right. I hope the operator got in trouble for that one.
Oh, he gave him a ton. You can imagine.
Yes. I know you have a lot of photographs. You have this amazing book that you've put together with the incredible photos that your son also assisted with.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about some of these photos that you have here in front of you?
Can I show you? Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I would, my son, I had almost forgotten, made these large pictures at one time, which I thought would be good for something like that. Of course, that's the entrance, Willow Mill Park. And then here's one of the airplane ride flying over the Conneguina Creek.
And you can see the dam in there as well.
Pardon?
You can see the dam on the one side as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Yeah. You did see that. Absolutely. That was that good old dam. And then they've taken it out now.
Mhm.
Again, that's, I think, from across the creek and just a view of the park, with the tower from the thing. And this is the roller skating rink. It was so much fun. Oh my goodness,
Love
we
the
had
people.
such a fun time skating and, special skates, and
Mhm.
it was fun. Now, of course, this is the walk up into the roller coaster ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those people.
And this one is one of the roller coaster coming up the top. I don't know who took that picture, but it's standing on the top as it came up.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And the pony rides you can see down
Mhm.
below. See
Mhm.
that? And then this is coming down. What a thrill.
And no safety harnesses visible.
I was looking to see if any hands were up, but and people would try to jump on, get over the fence, and as it came around before it hit that,
Mhm.
link that put them up. It's crazy, crazy. The kiddie rides, then, they had some little cars and there were little airplanes.
Huh? I remember them both.
You remember those?
You do.
Well, this one is my husband. Not then, he was like 14. And this is my father on the train. He liked to drive the train.
I can understand.
I just want to read up on too. The names of your parents and husbands.
Okay, my parents were Harry DeHaven and my mother Alta Stone. And my husband was Marilyn Swartz. So, okay. So I did have this with my father again. Similar picture. Another one with the train. And that's the merry-go-round. You couldn't see really forces on that. So this is my grandpa Stoner. His name is Harry also. Harry Dorsey. and he loved to work there. And he liked the kiddie rides.
Mhm.
And I love to tell his story because he had a friend who had a parrot. And they brought the parrot, this friend is Mr. Beard. And he brought his parrot over. And it was a beautiful parrot. And it was there sitting on kiddie rides. And the kids loved it because, he chattered, talked, and everything. So my mother came down. My mother started laughing about something. And the parrot mocked my mother. So it was, she's laughing. And he's laughing. It was infectious. So the motorboats out there in the creek. And then
It just seems so much wider on paper.
I know that's You mean the pictures?
The way the pictures make the creek look
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, of course, the landing of the dock. And they would bring the boat in right here. And then one of the guys, there's one there, you can just see his head, but we grab a rope, and
Mhm.
hold it while people get on the boat. And that was so much fun when the boats passed and then you get that rock in it. And well, again, that's where the dock again. And this one is kind of the fairway as it was with some people.
Mhm.
And this is the whip.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember the whip?
I have a photo of my father and I on it.
Do you?
I do.
Ah, that
So
was-
many good memories.
I know. And again, the whip, it's a little better
Mhm.
picture of the whip. So you can imagine my memories.
Yes.
I don't know, that's a different, similar to the whip again. And then this one is again of the dock from another angle with the boat out there. And let's see. Again, the whip. I don't have the mirror in, I don't think here, but that was the rink, the roller skating rink in the creek and everything. And then Penny Arcade, Playland it was called.
Yes.
And remember that?
Mm-hmm. You do.
I know, because that was a popular place. Cotton candy.
Candy.
There's your favorite. Cotton candy.
I have a sugar tooth.
And this is of the people swimming in the creek. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing to see how deep they were,
Yeah, yeah,
considering you
and-
can basically just walk across the creek
Right.
today.
yeah, absolutely. But it had to be deep because of the boats, and of
Right.
course they are the ones that kept it deep. But it's a popular place to swim. People
was-
wouldn't do that now.
It was cold and it was
Yeah.
a warm day.
Yeah. Again, so we had a rubber raft and we had a wooden raft so that people could dive
Okay.
off of if whatever they wanted. Again, the boats in the creek,
Mhm.
boats in the creek. And then the two boats passing that was on there.
Okay.
And then again, that's another one of the boats in the creek. I guess you know how many I have of them. And bingo. Remember bingo?
Mm-hmm.
I worked there. I think I'm in the picture, but I'm not sure. I know I was there. And then this was kiddie rides. No, I'm sorry. They're at the nice swimming block.
Okay.
And it used to be part of where the rink was. Again,
Mhm.
the beach. And another closer one with the
The dock.
rubber raft. Yeah. So this is Junior Miss Central Pennsylvania
Oh,
contest. And there's one of the girls that working in the stand.
oh my God.
That's something. And again, this is like in the fairway,
Mhm.
where people walked. And the airplane ride in the background. And the stage with one of the entertainments.
With very comfy looking seats.
And yeah, you can see, look at a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of people there.
In its heyday, it was a very popular place.
Yes, it was. It really was. Because, where else are you going to go to get entertainment? It's free.
Right. And
Yeah.
safe.
We didn't have to charge entrance fee or anything. That came later because for insurance purposes.
Mhm.
I understand, that they had to start charging entrance. So I'm glad we did. But
Right.
again, the bingo stand. And that, I know that's Marlon, and I think that's me.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Calling out numbers. So this was a contest that we had. That's my father, and they were giving away prizes. Always had contests going again. And his name is Don Martin. He was the bingo man, but he was helping with the
Okay.
prizes. And again, Again, the whip.
The whip. What is your favorite ride?
So people like this because of the old cars.
Mhm.
See cars in the parking lot. Like that used to be where the rink was, and they had to put pavilions in. Too bad, just too bad. This is a good one of the plane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was good. And another one with the airplane. So that's the big ones. I have others, of
Mhm.
course. And, it's just, this was good to have, I think.
Oh,
to see.
absolutely. There's a lot of memories there.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of memories. It was fun. And it was so good. It was cooler, It's
Mhm.
always cooler back there along Creek. You know that, I'm
Mhm.
sure. And it was, well, this is my son Kevin's um diagram or whatever you want to call them of the park and where things used to be, because
Right.
there's nothing there now but a picnic area. And my nephew and some others that have said, well, I'd like to go see. And I said, but there's nothing to see now. And I said, you just have to use your imagination, because it's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It's very hard to imagine what was all there.
It is. It is. You go there and you think, I can't vision even my sister said, I said, look at the dam, and from the dam, then you can get certain points, that you can go, because they were what we call the island. There were pavilions down
Mhm.
there. That was like a separate. They have a stream that kind of
Mhm.
separated it, and the roller coaster would go around it.
Right.
And that was. It's just so hard now
Right.
to visualize when.
I know I've stopped by there and to take some photos and explain to younger teens that this used to be an amusement park and they could not believe it.
No,
And to look at it today, I can't believe everything that was in that area. Doesn't seem
right,
like it's big enough
right.
for that.
I know. It is hard to imagine. And the fields, we had baseball field up at the top, and parking lot, and outhouses.
Mhm.
Remember that?
They were standing there there may still be some
Yeah,
outhouses there.
yeah,
But
they
the
were.
cement walls were there at least last time I saw.
Right. But there was, when you think of all that, it's a lot to imagine.
When Agnes hit in 72, I know that your family didn't own it any longer,
Mhm.
but was there anything that was lost that your father built or that your father, I know that the boats, is that correct? The boats no longer ran?
I think so. They had another, like a pontoon kind of boat
Okay.
that they took rides in. Um, I don't know what happened with the Chris Craft. At one point, I thought I had located a woman in Carlisle, said she had one of the boats, and we went up, we meaning my brother-in-law, who was interested in boats, and my sister and I, and a couple of my boys, but uh, it wasn't the same boat. And what we could tell, because in the picture, our boats, the windshield was straight across,
Mhm.
and on this, they were
They're
curved.
curved.
And the other thing is they didn't have the bar across that the driver could hold on to the rope
Okay.
for people to get in, and they
Right.
didn't have that. So I said, that's not the same. But I still wish I'd gotten one.
Right.
I wish I had, because they're beautiful boats. And they,
Right. But were there any rides lost after Agnes that you?
I really don't know. I know I have let me see. I have some tickets here in Willow Mill. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's an article that was in the paper. Nature
Mhm.
now entertains at Willow Mill. And that is shame.
Yes.
They kept that. And this one was just not too long about, which was sad. And it's just showing where the merry-go-round was, everything.
Right.
And it's empty.
Oh.
And so it's gone.
What is that in your book?
This
Yeah.
this is from, it says special notice 1988.
Oh my
The
goodness.
admission fee is not good toward the purchase of armbands. Instead, these are things.
Oh my goodness.
See, I got these things. You can look, but
The pricing is
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. When you think $1, it's $2.
For 300 people, it's $29 to rent a pavilion for reservation. Different times for sure.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And there's one on the Willow Mill Farm. I got that. Also, there was a song, Willow Mill Park song, and Ron Drake used to play it on the radio. And we were trying to get a recording of it, but weren't able to get it.
Right.
But my father would sing it over the loudspeaker when there was no one in the park. And like, Willow Mill, Willow Mill. It was fun. So I think that's probably most of what I can think of.
Do you have, I know you have some note cards there. Is there anything that you wanted to,
Pardon?
was there anything special that you wanted to tell me about the park?
Well, I just think having this opportunity is wonderful because there are still people around that remember, and like I keep making connections. Like even Dolly, I hadn't seen, and you know, every year they used to have a Willow Mill or no Hoagstown school reunion back picnic at the park, and they're not doing it this year. And I think that's a shame because it was kind of a, you know, seeing people. The Pottigers lived across the creek from us, and that was a big family, and anybody that worked around the park. And one year, one guy said to me, he said, "I used to be your paper boy." Really? I don't remember.
Yeah. It was the memories that anyone, when the moment you mentioned Willow Mill,
Yeah,
there's floods of memories that come up.
absolutely. That's what's so good, and it's I just love that they're keeping in touch with reality is it's over, but you know what? We have memories.
Right.
We have good things to remember, fun time. And I'm sorry that this generation doesn't have that,
Right.
that they don't have a place that they can just, you know, go and ride for hours and have fun.
Right. Well, tell me about your book that you and your son wrote.
Yes. Well, um, of course, the book is of my pictures
Right.
from the park, and it was my son's contribution surprise to me that he finished it when he did. So of course there's the mill. And then the Willow Mill song was in the beginning too. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. And this Dixie Blandy, hot air balloon ascensions, fireworks, and then some of the crowds and some of the entertainment
Right.
that was at the park. And it was, this is one of the things from the Penny Arcade he found somewhere. Got a picture of that in the Penny Arcade. And then again, I can't tell upside down. Yeah, that's in the Penny Arcade. You remember rolling the ball? And they remember this, which you hit the bell?
Right.
Okay, Marlon used to hit it and it would stick up there at the top. And they said, Marlon, quit doing that. And that was a penny pitch game that they had. And then some of the gifts and things from the bingo stand. Again, there's pictures in the park that we had, cotton candy. So I know there's a great picture here. Children, there's Merle Crumlick leading the ponies, which was cute. It was so cute. And then like I said, roller coaster again. And the merry-go-round. There, we have some of the merry-go-round.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good picture. I liked mine because mine are in color.
Yes.
Yes. And again, the swimming.
And there is a QR code in the book that you could actually hear the roller
Yes,
coaster
yes.
running, right?
Yes. There's a picture, a good picture of the Chris
Oh, that's
Graham
a-
boats. They're beautiful boats. Yes, the QR code is wonderful. Kevin got this from some gentleman that made it. Again, a closer picture of the boat. And I think it's great. It shows the whole thing.
Mhm.
I've gone up around the track and click, click, click. I can hear that.
Yes.
There's the merry-go-round. And I must have passed that. That was sack race, remember? Burlap sack race they used to have. And that's the dance floor
Okay.
with a jukebox.
Oh, wow.
So it's a Wurlitzer jukebox. So, which is important.
Right.
We had fun. After work, we go out there. So that's kind of a composite of everything with my sister, my grandpa Stoner, we kids that work there.
Mhm.
I'm in there, and Marilyn and some of the others. And my mother is here.
And your father, of
And
course,
my
driving
father.
the.
My father again, yeah. That's kind of it. But that's
It's wonderful memories that were put together
it's
for you.
fun. It is fun. It really is. Because, like I said, I met this girl who used to live in back, you know. Holy cow. And other people that I've come across, and they all say, I have fond memories. I remember it so well
Mhm.
how it was at Willow Mill.
Right.
Yeah. We had one bad storm that came through. Wind knocked trees down. It was really nasty. I have some pictures in there, but that's not really important. But anyway, I can't think of anything else that would be new. So,
Well, just to clarify, because I did not grow up here, and I obviously do not go to Willow Mill.
yeah,
But you mentioned that you didn't charge an entrance fee for
right.
the park.
No,
But there were tickets. So was it like per ride?
yeah. They've got a strip of tickets, and they would, just give a ticket and get on there 10 cents. And later, they started having to charge entrance fee, like I said, for insurance purposes, because, you know, I guess any kind of accident, when you think about it, and we were very fortunate. I mean, the people that would want to jump on a ride,
Right.
and you think, you don't do that, but
Right.
especially the roller coaster, because it came around the track and then this chain would hit, and grab on
Right.
and up the hill. And these people, honestly, we had a fence. They would jump over the fence to try to get on a free ride. That was crazy, but we were fortunate
Right.
that we didn't have anything
And it
bad.
was different times.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. People didn't sue you for everything.
Right. Right.
So it was just one of those three things that you don't have anymore, right?
Right. And that was always
Yeah.
wonderful.
Did your father pay you to work at the park, or
Yep, 50 cents an hour.
is that comparable to wages your husband was making,
Uh,
or did
I might have had a little bit more. But, I'm the owner's daughter. So. But it was just expected. I mean, there was just no question about it. We worked too, and as I was older, of course, did more. I mean, I remember um, when people would come to go swimming and there was not anything else in the park, and we would open the refreshment stand for people to be able to have something, to
Right.
drink a root beer or whatever. And so I'd opened it one night and I was down there, and my father came down. He said, close it up quick, hurry and get out of here because there's this storm coming. And the sky was as black as can be. And that's when we had that windstorm that knocked the trees down and everything. And it was scary. It was really amazing how trees were just toppling over like sticks, you know. I don't know if that was any kind of a tornado or what, but anyway, and a lot of damage from that. But like I said, it was hurry up, quick, get out. I
Mhm.
remember that well.
Mm.
Hmm. Any other questions,
Not that I have.
No,
ma'am?
no. Is there any other stories you want to tell us?
I can't think of anything right now. Like I said, honestly, I can't think of another one right now.
No, it's a lot of fond memories that um, just so many people. And I live close to another park, but we never went there. We always went I, to Willow Mill. And I just remember driving down the Carlisle Pike and we would see
Yeah,
Kentucky Fried Chicken and we knew we were close.
is that right?
We knew that we were going to turn to the right and go
Yeah.
down towards Willow Mill. And
Yeah.
that's just how
I
we
know.
knew.
Yeah,
And the very simple memories, the very all of our family reunions.
sure.
It was the easy place. It was the easy. Of course, we're going to go to Willow Mill. Why
Yeah.
would we go to? Why would we go anywhere else?
I know, I know. And my mother kind of started a catering thing for some groups that, you know, would rather have it catered than to, you know, be bringing picnic
Mhm.
baskets or something. And so it was always chicken and
Right.
potato salad and
Yeah.
things like that.
For me personally, when I've taken my children up to Knoebels,
Yeah,
I tell them that this is, and my husband and I both grew up at the park. He
Yeah.
grew up actually on Dewell Drive.
yeah,
And we both have told our children this is the closest to Willow Mill that we can think of,
that's right.
just because it's the same kind of concept, a little bit more modern, but
Yeah,
it's still the same concept
sure.
that that Willow Mill was. And not over, families could go there and enjoy themselves and
Yeah,
not feel as though they just spent all the money in their pockets because
that's
they
right.
could go there. They could bring in their own food or order food that, like you said,
Right, right.
that was always our favorite thing.
Mhm.
So
It was, it was just a comfort kind of feeling. I don't know.
Mhm.
You didn't, there's no stress, you know, and it was just relaxing and kids were just running around,
right.
you know, having fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there was a shooting gallery. I said, I don't know if that was still there when you were there.
I don't remember.
There was a shooting gallery. It was right there near the train ride.
Mhm.
And I laughed, boy, I don't think that would be allowed these days.
Right. I remember there was miniature golf.
Now, see, that was afterwards.
I remember the miniature golf, and that was around the train.
Yeah.
Wrapped around the train.
Yeah, because I know where you mean. I
Mhm.
saw that also.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah. We never played it, but
Yeah.
I know there was miniature golf right there.
Yeah,
But it was always the place
yeah.
that we loved. It was just the place that we loved. So, but thank you for sharing your stories with
Oh,
me.
my goodness.
I've loved chatting with you every time we talk and just remembering all of the stories and the memories that we have. And
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. You know, it's my childhood and I just enjoy going back and, you know, rehashing and going over and remembering. And then I hear other people tell me their stories or something, you know,
yeah,
and I thought, well, it was a good time and I probably didn't appreciate it like I should have at
I
that
don't think
time.
any of us know what that knew
No.
as children.
Yeah.
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I know.
My husband, of course, has different memories because he lived right there, and I would
Yeah.
just go visit family and then go to the park. But
Yeah.
we both have incredible memories of the park, and I just realized that the side picture here that you have is because I see miniature golf is there, so that's more of a modern.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, and it again just shows how many rides were in that little space.
Yeah.
It's just incredible that what could be done.
That's right.
And so,
That's exactly right. It was, well, it was built in 34,
okay.
I understand, and it was, I can't imagine how in the world it started,
Right.
what did they start with and
Yeah.
what we had.
And it closed in 87?
89,
89. Okay.
89, yeah. What a shame.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But thank
life
you.
goes on.
No, but I'm so thankful that you have these photos and that you have this that you can share with so many in the area that has all have all the memories,
Yeah,
and just seeing photos just brings out those memories.
I
So
know. I'm so happy to be able to show it. I mean, little did I know that I was collecting all this for some reason.
when you stopped in here, you saw Kara's and my face is lit up
I
that
know.
we had all of the
I
memories.
tossed at you and I said she was so excited.
We both have, I know Kara, she would do the same thing. She went on school trips there and
Yeah,
it was the same thing.
yeah,
We loved it.
I know.
So,
And the roller skating rink, I mean, people would sing as loud as the music, and skate. I really missed that when it burned. I was
is that
really,
when Rainbow? Because I know Rainbow Roller Rink.
that's another one.
Right.
That's
Did,
out
did
across the
that
pike.
did that start after the
No,
fire?
no, the rink was in, I don't know what year, but, it was active and,
Okay.
people would be there. But of course, being at the park,
Mhm.
a certain age group probably would rather roller skate than
Right.
play games or something like that, and we had night times like 7 to 9 or something
Okay.
like that, roller skating, and people would come back just to skate,
Right.
Sometimes they'd be drunk.
Right. A little too much fun there.
Yeah, that's right. But it was harmless. It was harmless. I, yeah. Yep. I think when Kevin did that, I thought, you know what? That's a nice thing to have.
Mhm.
It's like I say, even for my nephews, say, "Aunt Marilyn, I don't remember it. I never saw it."
Right.
I said, it's too bad
So,
because this is what it was.
mhm. No,
Yeah.
it's I love this. It really gives a good,
Yeah.
remembering where
Yeah.
certain things were.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I forget why he made that. There was something going on and said it would be good if we had a map. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, like I'm back to DeWalt
Mhm.
having this 100-year
Right.
celebration coming up. I think that's pretty cool. And Dolly was saying her cousins and her sister and some were coming up for that. And she said, I'm anxious to show them the book. She said it's a treasure. I
Really.
said, that is really sweet, Dolly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause she knows we had a good time.
Mhm. That's all that matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I did not know about that he owned all of that land and that
Yes, he
he
did.
charged for that. So
Yes.
you're teaching me things today, things I did not
Well,
know.
I just found that out from my sister. I mean, nobody ever told me that part,
Right.
but she said she knew, and I didn't realize. But you think that much money back then
Right.
for a couple months
Yes.
at the park, and you think tickets were 10 cents a piece. Holy cow!
Right. And to pay employees
Yeah,
and insurance
yeah,
and things like that.
sure, and running the machinery and
Right. Electricity.
oh my goodness.
But yeah, the memories
Mm-hmm.
are
Yeah,
there. And I'm glad that you can share this with us and share your photos and
just happy.
remind us what was there.
Happy to do that. Happy to show you because I'm pretty proud of what it was and what my father accomplished really.
Mhm.
And after he sold the park, he went into partnership with Susquehanna Speedway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. one of the friends that came there to in a band, Bud Bricker from York, the two of them bought Susquehanna Speedway. So that was entirely different, something else,
Right.
not fun like this,
Right.
crazy.
Did he have another job? But like whenever you would go back to Camp Hill, did he not do anything over the winter months?
Yeah, actually he did, but they also went to Florida usually and spent some time. But he before earlier, he was insurance investigator.
Okay.
So sometimes he would work for the state for so many months or something. But
Okay.
but when we lived in Mount Holly, we had, like I said, the Kruger's Dairy.
Mhm.
He had delivery for that, and he had the milk ice house,
Right.
and and he drove a school bus.
Wow.
So, and we had this beautiful big home, huge. It had fireplaces in the bedrooms. It was a gorgeous home. They tore it down, put his sheets in.
Oh,
I just said, that's terrible. That's terrible. But anyway, it was just his progression,
right.
one
Right.
thing to another to
Father,
another.
man of many talents.
Yeah, yeah. Daring enough to do something else,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I am thankful that he purchased the park and that you got to have that. I cannot imagine that being my childhood of being at the park every
Yeah,
day
yeah,
and having those kind of I had the memories of playing there, but not
yeah,
that's just
yeah.
incredible.
And then I had a horse and I could ride all around everywhere on the horse.
You were definitely a lucky girl.
I was. I was. I know. And like I said, didn't realize it then.
Mhm.
It was just that was just it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No. Well, thank you so much for sharing with me today.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for you're very kind, and it was so nice to do this.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.